I've known you a long time, 30 years I worked out. Knew Tanya very well, a beautiful, lovely, funny, smart woman in every way. You had an amazing marriage, and I know how hard it was for you when she was battling this dreadful thing, and I know how hard it's been for you, obviously, since you lost her. First of all, how are you doing?
Keeping busy. I think that's the first thing, you know, and I think you've got to get it out there for other guys that are struggling. You know, we've had some unbelievable emails and messages, especially, you know, to the newspaper, to my Twitter account, you know, and it's made a difference. I didn't even see that coming, but whenever you think you've got a problem, and however bad it is or however hard it is, there's always somebody around the corner with something worse, you know, or with bigger problems. And that's why you know, you have to talk about it. You know, I've got some great friends, you know, and as you know, mine's not a celebrity list. Mine is people I grew up with around Watford and Hempstead and Bedman and places like that. You know, they're the people you turn to, and obviously very good friends that you've met through the years. So it is good to talk to friends, you know, and keep you on your toes. But the hardest part of it all for me, I think, to adjust to is, even that day, was everybody's life goes on.
You expect it to stop.
You're looking round and you go, this is the biggest tragedy of your life. And people are still going to work, they're still coming home from work, they're still queuing up for Starbucks, they're still... And the enormity of it all is it just...
I always think the hardest thing, I think, for people with grief is, you know, everyone's lost people they love. I've not had your situation, and I wouldn't profess to know what that's like, but I think it's everyone, you know, you get the full focal point of attention for maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks, and then everyone literally does then go back to their world, their normality, their life, and you're then left in that moment. You're on your own to a degree, aren't you? I mean,
we sat around...
You wake up to reality.
Yeah, you know, we had my sister and my father-in-law, mother-in-law and my brother and Tanya's two best friends. I flew them out when we knew. Yeah, we're just sitting around looking at each other. I think we probably drank... I think we done, in a week, 360 tea bags, PG tips, you know, the big ones. You're just sitting there, cup of tea, this, that, and have a cigar, and you're just like, what has happened? The enormity. You know, and it's 3 weeks, 3 months, 1 week, as we sit here, and it's not got any better. I mean, there's some good messages out there. A lot of fellas are glad that I've sort of come out and said, you know, you can...
Someone says you don't ever get over this kind of thing, but you get through it.
Well, I was at the golf club, where you know, and they're good lads there. And one guy I was getting washed up, and he said, "I'm so sorry." I said, "Thanks." He said, "I lost my wife 14 years ago." And I went, "Oh, I'm sorry." And he said, "Yeah, let me tell you," he said, "it doesn't get any better." I went, "Oh." He said, "You learn to carry it, you know, and you learn to get busy, you know, every day." I mean, the minute I get up at 5:30, and I'm straight at it. Boom, let's go. And I crash through the day. That's what I've been doing, you know. First thing I saw this fantastic YouTube thing about this Marine, and he said the first thing and he was doing this big talk to, you know, to the Marines and everything. He said the first thing you do, you make your bed in the morning. So it doesn't matter how bad your day is, you can come to that well-made bed. So I get up in the morning. The first thing I do is make the bed in the morning, you know. And I ain't done that for 27 years, you know.
Tanya, for 6 years she battled this.
No, a lot longer than that. But the thing with Tans is, and especially, you know, you look at the papers now with the two football wives. Tanya got offered hundreds and hundreds of opportunities to do modelling and do stories, and she's never done none of them. She's opposite to these girls now, you know. And I sort of, people say to me, "Oh, what do you think of these two girls?" I think it's quite funny and everything else, but what about embarrassment to their husbands? No thought of the kids. You know, whereas Tans would not... She done one with Potter from the Mail. She done one interview in...
Linda Lee Potter, yeah.
Linda Lee Potter. And she brought Linda Lee Potter down to her knees with the story of the heart transplant. And Linda Lee Potter was a tough old lady. And she was crying her eyes out.
But Tanya didn't seek fame for herself.
She turned it
or
away.
Profile.
She
and
turned it
of course,
away.
It can come back to bite you, can't it? When
well, it's not that.
you're vulnerable.
It was because she wanted to protect the patients at Harefield.
Yeah.
It wasn't as if she was the special one. I mean, when we went to Harefield, we queued up with everyone else. She wouldn't have it. And the nurses were fantastic. And you know, a big thing I want here, my daughter wants me to say, and I want to say right now, especially from Tanya, is, you know, Dr. Mitchell, Dr. Yacoub at Harefield, you know, there's no time or amount of money or whatever we can do that would ever repay, because if you were, you know, what we sort of said, if you're at the pearly gates and you said, you know, when Tanyas was having the heart transplant, please, you know, God, give us 5 years or give us 10 years, we would have took that. We had 30 years, we had 32 years. And that was because of the special care that, or how good they are at Harefield, you know. Cedars carried that on when we moved away, obviously, for the work. But Tans, she would never, ever want to be special. And that was respect for the staff and for the other patients, especially. She never glamorised it. We went to 1 or 2 fundraising dues, you know. And the good thing is, like, through the years, we've done a lot of things. Look, most of my chat shows and things like that, the money's gone straight to Harefield because it's not taxed. So we've contributed. But
those last few months, weeks, days, when you knew, or when did you know that you were going to lose
the
it?
worst thing about it is when we went in there and you walk in and at Cedar Sinai, and there's a window along the corridor, and that's where people go to sort of say, you know, it's a week, it's a month, it's a year. That's the, you know, bad news room. You never want to go in there. And then I got back, and I was down there, and her mum and dad I flew her mum and dad over, and they took us in there, and that's when you kind of know that something bad is going to come out now, you know. And they were talking about hospice, and they're trained, so we're not, and it's a sledgehammer hitting you, and you deal with it there and then. It's all so surreal.
Do you remember what they said?
Yeah, it was about hospice. And I said, she ain't going no hospice, you know. Because over the years, you know, she's all the hospital treatments. I mean, I've slept in the room with her every night. There's not one night, you know, that I haven't slept in the room when she's been in overnight. And, you know, she done, I think, three intensive cares we had her in, you know, for a week, 2 weeks. So there was no way you'd leave her in there, you know, because she'd always say to me, you know, you'll look after me then, won't you, you know, so. And that was the hardest thing in the end, because after the years, you can't fulfil your promise. So that was hard to deal with. I think the letter that Kaylee got, we found the letter from Tans to Kaylee, kind of made us strong, saying, don't grieve, I'll be waiting for you. And I believe that. I've got something to look forward to. If you turn a negative into a positive. And she's waiting, so that's what you deal with. I think is the best way to do it. Daughter's been strong. You know, that letter's made my daughter's very strong. She's now leading and taking up the reins, you know.
That letter said something really poignant about every day something beautiful would happen to you. Tell me about that.
Yeah, I got the card, and it said, Vin, she said, tomorrow something beautiful will happen. And then in it she wrote that something beautiful always happens to her, that she wakes up with me, you know. And I think with me, Piers, as much as I was a bugger, she felt safe with me. I could deal with it, you know, whatever problem. And until that final meeting in that room. And honestly, Piers, she was, from me to that lady there, in the other room. And then we had to go back. And they said, what's important? And I said, well, one thing's important. She ain't going in no hospice. Me and Kaylee look after her, and her mum and dad.
Did Tanya know or not? She never knew.
No, because she had got to a situation with the fentanyl and the morphine and the hard painkillers where I didn't want her frightened. It would have really frightened her. So I said, I don't want her to know, and I don't want her in any pain. I think that would have been the hard... She was in a lot of pain, Piers. I mean, we went to Dubai. I was in Dubai for the World Cup, and when it first started niggling, she thought she'd lifted something in her ribs, but when we got back, we got it sorted out, and it was the tumour. And it started growing, it was cracking her ribs. So she had six years of this tumour cracking her ribs. Then it went to lungs, and then Christmas Eve was a tough one. That they called Christmas Eve and said that we found a couple of spots on the brain. That was the first time we ever broke down together. And it was in the room, it was in the house, but we had a lot of guests there. She didn't want to ruin their Christmas. So that was the worst we ever broke down together. She wanted to get, we then said to the, she did, how can I get through this Christmas? And I think she wanted to get through the Christmas, so they put her on some steroids, which was completely 32 years before, because that's what she was on with the heart transplant. And it really puffs her out, and, you know, she's sort of unrecognisable because she was an absolutely fantastically gorgeously looking woman. So she went on the steroids to get through Christmas with her family and our friends, and Steve and Karen, Alex, Patty and Sally, they all came over, and she wanted to just give them a great Christmas. And I don't know if she knew, but she kept getting us all together. She kept saying, this is a great Christmas, and she was in a lot of pain, and got through it brilliantly. And then when we got back, then she started booking for this year, for this Christmas. Talking to her brother Shane, I think she knew she weren't going to make this Christmas. Really, when you look back at it all.
When she was towards the very end, Vinnie, you were told, I think, by the staff at the hospital that she could probably hear you, and you talked to her. That must have been unbelievably tough. I mean, what kind of thing could you say to?
Well, and you get some. It's like kind humour out of it, and so they'd said, you know, talk to her. She slept a lot, you know, and she'd wake up for a few minutes, and she'd be, you know, I've got a video. I don't know why I videoed it, but we're in the ward, and she was telling her dad about. Said, me and Vin been together 27 years, and said, I've been telling all the doctors that we're crazy mad in love, and that's very, very difficult in these times. And her dad leaned up and said, yes, it is Maureen, to his message, isn't it, Maureen? Which made it, you know, light-hearted. But so they said to us, talk to her and have conversations, although she was asleep. And I used to lift her out of bed and put her on the chair, so she wasn't in the bed all day. And she had a pillow on her, and we were talking about the horse and that when she was younger, and her dad was saying, you know, he'd come home from work and get the horse, and she's fast asleep. And she started stroking the pillow as if it was the horse, and then all of a sudden she started riding the horse. And it blew our minds, really. But then, you know, for that next week, 10 days, then we were talking to her, you know. But, you know, the sleep got longer. And she was on the oxygen, and they brought everything to the house. We had a 24-hour nurse, and they were fantastic as well, you know. But, you know, my life's indebted to Harefield and Cedars for what they did for us. And,
there was a moment, Vinnie, when, after Tanya died that night, you saw this light coming down.
Well, we were all there when she was passing away, and her best friend, Julie and Joe, they'd gone through it. Joe had gone through it with her young sister, and Julie had gone through it with her dad, who I knew very well. And it was quite strong having them there. I flew them over straight away, because Tanya's birthday present was on a Gucci bag, just for these girls in the newspaper right now. Tanya's birthday present every year from me was 2 economy flights for her 2 best friends to come to LA. That was her present, not Gucci bag, and not Prada, not Louis Vuitton watch. That was her present every single year. And so when she was passing away, that half an hour, when she actually passed, and I was not shouting, but, you know, saying to the nurse, "Is she gone? Is she gone?" She said, "Yeah, she'd gone." It felt like butterflies and Tinkerbell had left and were leaving her, leaving the bed, you know, and I was there holding her. But that night we'd gone outside and obviously we were mesmerised. We didn't know what to do, you know. We were sitting around in the garden and everybody had gone to bed and it was about 12:25. I said, right, you know, I've got to get in and get some sleep. And then this daunting thing of, you know, the funeral, do we take her home? Don't we take her home? Do we keep her? Her nan and granddad, who she absolutely adored, are buried in Watford. Do we put her there? Then her dad said, you and Kaylee are here now. Your lives are here, especially Kaylee's. So Forest Lawn was the decision. But I went to go in and I looked round, and I don't believe in all this stuff, you know. And Tans loved going to get her palm read, and all the girls would come over and she'd go to the spiritualist and she'd come and say, oh, this is happening and that's happening, and I'd say, oh, yeah, right, and didn't believe in it. I'm absolutely not a believer. And I went to go in and I turned and there was a white light. And I looked, oh, here we go, okay, you know, we're going to talk ourselves into these things now. But I looked at Piers and I was looking, and I looked around for something else. There was nothing else there, and it was this light, it was way off. And I probably looked at it and was looking around for 3-4 minutes, you know, just to, hey, this looks kind of strange. So anyway, I looked up and I just said, is that you, babe? I went to walk in and just blew her a kiss and went to walk in. Now, me and Tans always had this thing. Every single day I'd leave the house. She'd blow me a kiss and throw it and I'd catch it. I'd take you to golf with me or whatever, and I'd go, bang, got it. So I'm just going in the house and I go, oh. So I blew a kiss and threw it up. And I swear to you, Piers, it was still there, the light, and it went, whoa, and it moved, flew to the left, and it went, whoa, 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 and shoom, gone. Gone. And that was my moment. I knew she'd gone. I knew that was the moment where she'd gone and we got the letter. And that is me knowing that she is waiting. Now, in the spectrum of the universe, as I said the other day, our time here is minute. So it's not a problem for me. I'll crash on through work. And she, you know, would, you know, even the talk of the X Factor stuff, she loves the X Factor and everything else, and she wanted me to do it. That was her dream. Whether I do it or not is a different story. It doesn't matter. There's other ways I can fulfill her dream and her legacy, you know. And her daughter is so strong. She read that letter out. She put her shoulders back, and she'd found that letter a week before, after. To Kaylee, be strong. Look after Vin.
I've never seen a reaction to any interview we've ever done compared to what we're getting here.
Cats on Twitter. Sort of, oh, sorry. Yeah. There's just a couple that stand out to me. Vinnie Jones talking about his beloved wife with bravery and dignity is a lesson many would do well to follow. Sending so much love to him and his family, heartbreaking. And Jeanette, I think this is what touches me and so many people this morning. Oh, my goodness, waking up and hearing this heart-wrenching story makes you want to kiss your partner goodbye as they go to work and never let them go. Vinnie, you're amazing. I think it makes us all want to kiss everybody close to us, our children, our loved ones.
There's one here too, which I think plays to also your sort of reputation, your image. Darren Gook says, very powerful moving interview with Vinnie Jones, shows that being a tough guy means nothing when it comes to losing the love of your life. He's showing what love, marriage and commitment is all about. Very brave and courageous to speak so openly. And I know that you feel strongly that you want to try and help people who go through this to try and deal with it, don't you?
Yeah, you know, I've lost a couple of friends, you know, self-inflicted, and it amazes me that that heavy weight can come down and you could take your own life or really, you know, harm yourself or put yourself through bad situations. And I just think the worst thing for me, you know, grief like this is grief and alcohol. I mean, if you mix the two, that's a very bad ingredient.
You've not had a drink for 7 years now.
7 years in April I'll be. But I distracted it like a cancer. I felt it was a cancer in me, alcohol. I think it is in everybody, but, you know, I'm not a preacher of it. My daughter is. My daughter goes out there and puts the word out and explains what it does to young girls and alcohol and drugs and everything. Luckily, I never took drugs in my life. You know, with the football and everything, you know, that was my goal. Funny enough, I didn't have, when I first signed for Wimbledon, I didn't have a drink for like a year or so, and then you just get it becomes part of the social scene and the system.
Vinnie, before we finish this, for those who didn't know Tanya, she was such a life force. Beautiful, effervescent, funny, smart. You know, you had this wonderful marriage.
We've been on this journey, you know, kind of like the Orient Express ride we've been on together, and finally came to the end of it, I think, which was inevitable. But when you're having such a great time, and it was 27 years, whether you was a guest in our house, whether you were family, you know, her dad would say, right, we're playing golf tomorrow. She'd go and get all his stuff out and lay it all out and help him. Great supporter and so strong with us and me and Kaylee to, you know, to make us feel brave. Whenever, you know, years ago I did that Big Brother and I had a breakdown going in. This was beforehand. She got me through it. She went, you know, she believed in me. And years before, she said, when I asked her to marry her, I said, what, you know, she was like, what do you want? Because I'd left home I was like 15 when I left home, and I was sleeping on people's couches and living out of a black bin liner for a few years, you know, and, you know, I said, you know, I've got to be loved, you know, and that was it. And she said, right, okay. And that was the confidence of that and the safety net of her, you know. And as you know, I was, you know, through drink and alcohol and all the rest of it, I wasn't, you know, in the right state of mind a lot of times.
Well, you had the love of an amazing woman, Vinnie, but she also had the love of a great man. I mean, I think people who listen to you in this interview will have seen the depth.
I was a great protector, Piers. That was, you kind of, my role was being this great protector of saying, we're all right, we're strong, we're going to do this, now we're going to do that. You know, even, you know, I am crash bang well up, I want everything done yesterday. And even the, you know, the funeral arrangements and everything, I wanted it done, I wanted it great. And, you know, there's our wedding song, Piers, is Peter Starstead, you know, two lonely children begging in rags, you know, where did you go to, my lovely? And I think that through the start, the marriage, to the end, the death, that song is still so true. The words, and that was
Vinnie,
was us too.
You couldn't put it any more beautifully. I'm so sorry for your terrible loss.
You've paid a beautiful tribute to Tanya. She was clearly the love of your life.
And this is for everybody out there who have got massive problems. Somebody has got worse problems than you, but it doesn't feel like that at this particular time. But you must be strong. You must talk to people and listen and try and leave the alcohol out, I would.
Vinnie, great to see you. Thank you so much for coming in today.
So
we'll
much.
send you our love and our support. You've got a lot of it. There are millions of people right with you.
Yep, I'll just keep busy.